Truth table, basic logic gates.
The first thing that we need to do is to prepare the components for the circuit. The components that we need are breadboard, LED, resistor, side switches, power supply, and the IC7400, which is the NAND gate. We are using LED to check the output, side switches to apply the input, and power supply to give power in our circuit. Next is to connect the positive wire of the power supply to the positive line in the breadboard, and the negative wire of the power supply to the negative line in the breadboard. What we need next is the IC7400. Make sure to connect the top VCC line to the bottom VCC line and the top ground line to the bottom ground line. What we're gonna do next is to connect the 7th pin to the ground line and the 14th pin to the VCC line. Now that we've made connections from the power supply to the IC, next is we're going to make a connection from the inputs and outputs. Our inputs are these two side switches. Next is we're going to connect the terminal 1 of the side switch to the VCC and the terminal 2 to the ground. Similarly, we're going to do the same for the second switch. All that's left is the common terminal of the switch. The common terminal of the first switch is connected to the first pin of the IC. The common terminal of the second switch is connected to the second pin of the IC. The first and second pin of the IC are the inputs. As for the output, we're gonna need the LED and resistor. As for the resistor, make sure to set it on 220 ohms. The third pin is the output of the IC, and the output of the IC should be connected to the anode of the LED, while the cathode should be connected to the ground of the breadboard. I am going to use these notes to avoid confusion. The first switch is A and the second switch is B. The left side of the switch signifies logic 1 and the right side of the switch signifies logic 0. So now we can start the simulation. This time we can now verify the truth table of NAND gate. So if the inputs of A and B are 0, the output should be 1. So the LED is on. If the inputs are 0 and 1, the output should be 1. So the LED is on. If the inputs are 1 and 0, the output should be still 1. The LED is still on. Lastly, if the inputs are 1 and 1, the output should be 0. So to make the NOR gate, we have first to prepare the components. And then next, we get the power supply and connect the positive wire to the positive and the negative to the negative. So secondly, we have to connect the IC and then the switches and connect the common terminal for the input. The next is we connect the output and then use the resistor and LED. Connect the output to the anode and cathode to the negative. And this is our truth table of the NOR gate.
Now, let's proceed to the OR gate. This is one of the basic gates to understand, since an OR gate produces an output signal when at least one of its outputs is high. So the first thing we do is to gather the components. And then, we put the 7432 on the breadboard. then follows the switches. Now we connect the positive and negative wire of the power supply to the respective rails of the breadboard. So let's just change the color so that we don't get confused. And now we put the resistor and the LED to the motherboard and connect the output pin 1 to pins 5 and 6 and connect the pin 4 output to the anode of LED in series of resistor. So when using OR gates on the breadboard, ensure you understand the pin out and logic behavior of the gate. Connect inputs securely and avoid unintentional short circuits by keeping your connections neat. Test your circuit thoroughly before putting it into a larger project to ensure proper functionality. And let's just connect the wires to the respective lines. And start simulation. And there you have it! We made the LED lit using OR gate. Nice!
By making the NOT gate, first you have to prepare the materials. Get the breadboard, 7404, LED, resistor, and power. The thing you have to do is put the 7404 on the breadboard. Get the power supply and then connect the positive and the negative to the breadboard. You have to put the positive and the negative on the other side of the breadboard. Next is put the VCC line to the positive and the GND line on the negative. Next is put the slide switches, LED, and resistor on the breadboard. Then put the terminal 1 on the positive and the terminal 2 on the negative. The common ground must be on the input 1, and the terminal 1 of the resistor is on the output 1. Then, LED output 1 must be on the negative. Then change the resistor into 220 ohms. Then start the simulation. Try it if it works. As you can see,
Universal logic gates.
4 NOR gates to make NAND gate. First is pair the components, breadboard, power supply, LED, 220 ohms resistor, slide switch, and IC702. Connect the positive and negative wire to the power supply to the respective rails of the breadboard. Connect the top GND and VCC line to the bottom GND and the VCC line at the bottom, both ends respectively. Install the IC7402 and connect the 14th pin to the VCC line and the 7th pin to the GND line. Place 2 slide switches and connect each common terminal for input A and B to pin 2 and 3. The pin 5 and 6 also connect terminal 1 to the VCC line and terminal 2 on the GND line of the both switches. Connect the output pin 1 to pin 8, pin 4 to pin 9, and connect the output pin 10 to pins 11 and 12. Next, connect output pin 13 to the anode of LED in series of resistor, then connect cathode to the GND line. Start the simulation and verify the truth table of the logic gate.
Four NAND gates to make NOR gate. Prepare the components like breadboard, power supply, LED, 220 ohms resistor, slide switch, and IC7400. Connect the positive and negative wire of the power supply to the respective rails of the breadboard. Connect the top ground and VCC to the bottom ground and VCC lines to the both ends respectively. Install the IC7400 and connect the 14th pin to VCC line and the 7th pin to the ground line. Place two switches and connect each common terminal for input A and B. Also connect terminal 1 to VCC line and terminal 2 on the ground line of both switches. Connect output pin 3 to pin 9, pin 6 to pin 10, pin 8 to pin 12 and 13, and connect cathode to the ground line, then start simulating and verify the truth table of the logic gate.
Three NOR gates to make AND gate. First, prepare the components: breadboard, power supply, LED, 220 ohms resistor, slide switch, and IC7402. Connect the positive and negative wire of the power supply to their respective rails of the breadboard. Connect the top GND and VCC line to the bottom GND and the VCC line of the end of respectively. Install the IC7402 and connect the 14th pin to the VCC line and the 7th pin to the GND line. Place two slide switches and connect each common terminal for input A and B to pin 2 and 3, and pins 5 and 6 also connect terminal 1 to the VCC line and terminal 2 on the GND line of both switches. Connect the output pin 1 to pin 8, pin 4 to pin 9, and connect the output pin 10 to the anode of the LED in the series of resistor, then connect the cathode to the GND line. Start the simulation and verify the truth table of the logic gate.
Three NAND gates to make OR gate. Prepare like components like breadboard, power supply, LED, 220 ohms resistor, slide switch, and IC7400. Connect the top ground and VCC lines to the bottom ground and VCC lines at the both ends respectively. Install the IC7400 and connect the 14th pin to the VCC line and 7th pin to the ground line. Place two slide switches and connect each common terminal for input A and B to pin 1 and pin 2. Connect output pin 3 to pin 9, pin 6 to pin 10, and connect output pin 8 to the anode of the LED in a series of resistor, then connect cathode in the ground line. Then start simulating and verify the truth table of logic gate. Two NAND gates to make AND gate. Prepare the components like breadboard, power supply, LED, 220 ohms resistor, slide switch, and IC7400. Connect the positive and negative wire of the power supply to the respective rails of the breadboard. Connect the top ground and VCC lines to the bottom ground and VCC lines at the both ends respectively. Install the IC7400 and connect the 14th pin to the VCC line and the 7th pin to the ground line. Place two slide switches and connect each common terminal for input A and B to pin 1 and pin 2. Also connect terminal 1 to VCC line and terminal 2 on the ground line of both switches. Connect output pin 3 to pin 4 and pin 5 and connect output pin 6 to the anode and lead in the series of resistor, then connect cathode to the ground line. Then start simulating and verify the truth table of the logic gate.
2 NOR gates to make OR gate. First, prepare the components: breadboard, power supply, LED, 220 ohms resistor, slide switch, and IC7402. Connect the positive and negative wire of the power supply to the respective rails of the breadboard. Connect the top GND and VCC line to the bottom GND and VCC lines at both ends respectively. Install the IC7402 and connect the 14th pin to the VCC line and the 7th pin to the GND line. Place two side switches, slide switches, and connect each common terminal for input A and B to pin 2 and 3. Also, connect terminal 1 to the VCC line and terminal 2 on the GND line of the both switches. Next, connect the output pin 1 to pins 5 and 6 and connect pin 4 output to the anode of LED and series of resistor. Then connect the cathode to the GND line. Next, start the simulation and verify the truth table of the logic gate.